Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Don't Alienate the Kids, Raising Resilient Children While Avoiding High-Conflict Divorce, 10th Anniversary Edition, by Bill Eddy, LCSW JD, narrated by Tom Parks. Publisher's note: in this audio edition, you will hear references to charts present in the print and ebook formats of the book. A note of caution to the listener. This book addresses high-conflict people and their high-conflict personalities. Knowledge is power. The information I provide is intended to help you be more successful in your interactions with people as an individual or as a professional. However, this personality information can also be misused and can inadvertently make your life more difficult. Therefore, I caution you not to openly label people in your life, nor to use this information as a weapon in personal relationships. Before you go further, I ask that you make a commitment to use this information with caution, compassion, and respect. My explanations and tips address general patterns of behavior and may not apply to your specific situation. You are advised to seek the advice of a therapist, an attorney, or other conflict resolution professional in handling any dispute. The author and the publisher are not responsible for any decisions or actions you take as a result of listening to this book. Bill Eddy. Forward. When I met lawyer, therapist, and mediator Bill Eddy several years ago, I discovered we were comrades at heart. I had co-authored Stop Walking on Eggshells and the Stop Walking on Eggshells workbook about borderline personality disorder. And he had written High-Conflict People in Legal Disputes for Legal Professionals. It was so validating to meet someone else with the same mission: develop innovative ways to help people understand personality disorders and develop skills for dealing with these high-conflict personalities. Knowing how desperately divorcing people needed Bill's information, I first published his book, Splitting: Protecting Yourself While Divorcing Someone with Borderline or Narcissistic Personality Disorder, which was then published by New Harbinger Publications in 2011. Splitting was so successful, we followed it up with a CD companion to Splitting. We also collaborated on several teleseminars about relationships with borderlines and narcissists. Now Bill has written another exceptional book, Don't Alienate the Kids. He addresses the concerns of parents and professionals dealing with a difficult or high-conflict parent in divorce. For parents, this book gives a foundation for assisting a child during the divorce process, or at any time, without getting emotionally hooked by a high-conflict parent, whether or not they have a personality disorder. His information and tips can help any parent at any time. Frequently, professionals involved with divorce decisions improperly become embroiled in the conflict between the parents, which can sway their judgment about what's best for the children. Bill offers professional guidelines on how to make these decisions with compassion and understanding. His new approach may, at first, be surprising. Once professionals understand that high-conflict individuals require a different mindset, they realize the wisdom of Bill's approach. As a former therapist and mediator with an interest in high-conflict personalities, Bill is probably the most qualified expert in the world to write about this topic. He knows how bad it can get on the front lines of modern divorce in family court, and how families can become endlessly split over their children. He writes about these issues with expertise and sensitivity, with tips for everyone, from parents, family members, and friends to counselors, lawyers, and judges. This book takes a giant step in its effort to calm the conflict over child alienation. His 1,000 Little Bricks approach gives hope and really spells out what parents and professionals can do to help the kids build a foundation of resilience, even during a divorce, for everyone's benefit in the future. the ideas in this book may change how people get divorced for years to come. Randy Krager, co-author of Stop Walking on Eggshells, Taking Your Life Back When Someone You Care About Has Borderline Personality Disorder, author of The Essential Family Guide to Borderline Personality Disorder, New Tools and Techniques to Stop Walking on Eggshells, author of the Stop Walking on Eggshells Workbook, Practical Strategies for Living with Someone Who Has Borderline Personality Disorder. Part 1. Building a Wall. What to Avoid. Suppose when parents separate or divorce, they are given a pile of 1,000 little bricks. They can use these bricks to build a wall against the other parent, or they can use these bricks to build a foundation of resilience for their child. When they build a wall, the bricks they use are blaming others, all or nothing thinking, unmanaged emotions, and extreme behaviors. When they build a foundation of resilience, the bricks they use become checking oneself, flexible thinking, managed emotions, and moderate behaviors. There are many people today, family, friends, and professionals, who will help parents build a wall or a foundation. The problem is that we often don't realize whether we're building a wall or foundation. We have to become informed and self-aware. Chapter 1. Alienation. What it is, what it isn't. The first half of this book explains the problem of child alienation. When a child resists or refuses to see a parent during or after a separation or divorce. The second half teaches how to avoid alienation. Ways to parent a child to be resilient in today's world, even during these family changes, and to avoid high-conflict divorce. Since I wrote the first edition of this book in 2010, nothing major has changed about the problem of alienation. More children than ever are resisting or refusing to see one of their parents after a separation or divorce. Many parents and professionals still believe this is primarily a problem of intentional behavior by one parent against the other, or, at the opposite extreme, that alienation doesn't exist. But, as I will explain throughout this book, it really is about the mostly unconscious emotional repetition in isolation of pained facial expressions, angry outbursts, tears, side comments, and blurring of emotional boundaries between one or both parents and the child. A significant amount of time in family courts around the world is spent arguing over which parent is knowingly at fault without understanding the real underlying problem and without finding helpful solutions, while the child becomes more and more resistant. Yet a lot has been learned over the past 10 years that has significantly improved the situation for some children and families. There is great potential for the future for those who understand what is really happening and take reasonable steps to prevent this emotional repetition in isolation and to overcome the alienation. In this second edition, I will explain my understanding of this problem and its solutions, after nearly 40 years of addressing it first as a therapist and then as a family lawyer, and now as one who trains judges, lawyers, counselors, and mediators in managing high-conflict cases. What it is. We need to start by looking at what alienation really is. It's the resistance or refusal of a child to spend time with one of their parents, the rejected parent, during and after a separation or divorce. The child reports intense fear, anger, and or hatred for the other parent, sometimes including that parent's parents, new partner, house, and even pets. There is no good reason given for the child's resistance or refusal. Typically, the child reports disproportionate reasons, such as disliking how one parent wears their hair or how another parent is no good at math. They may report fears of abuse when there is no history of abuse, or anger that the separation or divorce is all one parent's fault. Alienation tends to grow as some parents are unable to manage their emotions and get more and more angry and upset during the separation and divorce process. It especially grows when the family is repeatedly involved with family court hearings and multiple professionals without a clear resolution to the case. It's a very emotional process. One or both parents usually demonstrates intense fear, anxiety, sadness, anger, and or hatred for the other parent, primarily when they are alone with the child. This emotional repetition and isolation exposes the child to an intolerable amount of emotional pain, so that the child unconsciously totally absorbs the emotions of one parent and totally avoids the other as the only way to cope. Often, one or more professionals, lawyers, judges, counselors, and others, join in the emotions of the family with intense anger at or dislike of one or both parents. This makes the problem worse, not better, as the emotional intensity surrounding the child increases. This is a family systems problem, which means that everyone in the family, and those close to the family, reinforces the problem, and therefore needs to be part of any solutions. This includes both parents and may also include grandparents, new partners, and others. Alienation is associated with separation or divorce. However, it sometimes happens within intact families that have similar family dynamics, so that the child refuses to have a meaningful relationship with one parent and favors the other. What it isn't. It's not a gender issue. Children can become alienated against either a father or a mother. I have represented and consulted with many alienated parents of both genders. It's not normal. It's not a common symptom of divorce. Only about 15% of children become alienated from a parent during and after the separation and divorce process. Of course, many more children show signs of resistance at times during their own child development, but it does not develop into a significant pattern of refusal of all contact with one parent. It's not a common symptom of abuse. Most children who have been abused or have had domestic violence in their home do not reject the abusive parent. They just desperately want the abuse to stop. It's not the same as realistic estrangement, which sometimes occurs when there has been child abuse or very negative parenting by the rejected parent, and the child's resistance is considered proportional to their own real-life experience. It's not because the child always had a bad relationship with the rejected parent. In most cases, the rejected parent had a strong and loving relationship with the child before the separation, or when extremely emotional conflicts began. It's not about who has primary custody or parenting time with the child. I have had some cases in which the parent with the majority of the time became the rejected parent because of the constant negative comments and unmanaged emotions of the non-custodial parent during their time with the child. It isn't because of one event or one statement by one parent. It's numerous statements, events, and emotions around the child that build this wall, 1,000 little bricks. It's not a problem that can be solved through individual child counseling, nor through reunification or reconnection counseling that only involves the child and the rejected parent. The whole family must be involved for alienation to be successfully addressed and resolved. It isn't hopeless. Many children and rejected parents have reestablished a good relationship, often quite quickly, through intensive counseling and or activity programs together. However, sustaining this reunification can be difficult if the family system dynamics remain basically the same. When the whole family is involved in changing behavior in the same direction, then lasting improvement is possible. learning about family systems.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?